the following of our Django tutorials about creating the charts using the database, we will going to continue with our models.py created, and now we're ready to run our server. So we can run python manage.py run server, and once it runs, we can follow the link here. And as you can see, this server is up and running. So we're gonna switch to the admin panel. I've already logged into the admin panel, and so if you're not logged in, you need to enter your username and password and log in. So I've already added the data before recording this video, so you can switch to datas. Actually, this is data in plural form, but Django has added s automatically without even asking. But you can add the plural form to your data, to your models.py in order to, for example, define the plural form of datas. So that's not a really important part, so let's add some other data to our database. So now what we're going to do is add another blood pressure. So blood pressure number is, or actually two numbers, one over the other, for example, 120 over 80. So I've added one of the data, which was 120, but let's add something a bit more. So, and also the date time will be also automatically created once we click on the save. And as you can see, we have another one, 130, after 120 that I have already added. So let's add somewhere about probably 4 other data to have 6 data. So I can add, for example, 110. I can add 112. I can add 118. I can add 125. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. So let's we have created enough database. You can add even more, but for now I think that's enough. But if it felt with little, we'll add a bit more. So just let's stop the server and we can clear the terminal to get rid of that part. And now we're ready to complete our urls.py and views.py. So we're gonna first of all, we're gonna create our urls.py, and here we're gonna give the address to our views.py, right? So let's run from the chart app, import views. So we've already imported the views, and we also need to define the home page, right? So the home page, add nothing to the address, and we're gonna define views.homeview, and then we're gonna add the name equals to home. You can write homepage. So short form home is better. So now we've used the home view function, which we will create inside of the views.py. We can also add another path for the chart data. So I'm gonna call this API, and so I'm gonna use views.chart data, and the name also equals to chart data. So that's it. Let's save this code and switch to views.py. And here we're gonna add a couple of libraries. So from REST framework, actually it's underline framework dot views, import API view, and also from REST framework dot response, import response. So now we're gonna create the functions. So the first function that we wanted to create is the home view, right? So let's get to our views.py, def home view. So inside of the parentheses, we've got the request, and then we will return render request, and our template will be chart.html. There we go. Also, we've got another function for our, so let me switch to that, our charts data. So I'm gonna create that chart data. And so here we're gonna get the request, and that's enough. So the first thing we got to do is to import from .models, import the data class, because we're gonna use this. So here we can write the data related to our date time. So first of all, let's write data equals to, I'm gonna write, I can write database. So here we can write data objects.all. So here we have parentheses dot values. So this is our database. We also have the length of our database, which is a fixed one right now, a number of 6, but it might increase. So we're gonna create a new variable and write data dot objects dot all dot values, and then dot count. So this will determine the number of data that we've got in our database. So now we're gonna get database dot date, right? So this is our date, and so we want to get the data related to the date. So right over here, we do not need this part because we'll get the values later. But now let's first of all create the labels array, which is related to the times that we're going to actually keep the records of our blood pressure, right? So we're gonna add this to the array. So first of all, I'm gonna write for I in range dblen, db underline len, and oh, we even got d. So in the next line, we're going to add the data that we've imported here. So data dot data dot objects dot get, and the ID will equal to I plus 1, And so we're gonna create a new variable in order to write this, or we can write labels dot append. So we're gonna add this to the array related to our labels, which is going to include our date time. So let me just put this inside of another variable and call this data. Data equals to this, and then we can write data.date, which is related to the date of our time. And by the way, this is a number, so we need to change this to a string. So in order to do that, we can write str, and this will convert the number data to a string, and then it will append this to the labels. So now the next thing I'm gonna do is, so right now we've got the labels array, and then we can also create another array. The array related to data should be created. So I can call that array blood pressure, or BP in short. So BP equals to just an empty array, and then we will add data to the database. So here I can again write for I in range. Oh, and this is not for. Let me fix this. For I in range db_len, db_len, and then I'm gonna use data equals to data.objects.get, and then we will consider the ID equals to I plus 1, and then in the next line I'm gonna write BP dot append, and here we're gonna actually, this time this could be a number or string, don't know, but I think this is a string, yes, because we managed to add it to a str function. So we want a number, so we can write int of the data dot, so we had blood pressure, right? The variable related to blood pressure, which was blood pressure. So now we've got also blood pressure, and so the next thing we need to do is, so we've also created the array related to our data. So now we can create a dictionary called chart, and so we open up a curly bracket. So we've got first of all, we've got the labels, which equals to, actually this is inside of the apostrophe. So labels instead of the apostrophe. So we've got the labels. For that, we've created an array. So chart, also chart labels. So we've got the chart label, which we can define a name. For that, we can say blood pressure record. Pressure record. And then the next thing we need to add here is chart data, which is equal to BP, right? So BP, and here we go. We've created the chart. Now it's time to actually return our response. So return response, and then we've got the chart that we want to add to our response. So this is the data that will be sent to JavaScript, and all we need to do is to import the response from the REST framework, and here using the REST framework the data will be transferred to JavaScript so that we can then get the data and use the chart.js in order to present the chart. So that's it for this part of the tutorial. In the next ones we'll continue with our templates, and hopefully we can create the charts that we're looking for.